Hey there, today's episode is one of my very favorites of the year. Let's talk about the Super Bowl commercials and how you can use the same sales methods to sell your online course. So let's go.
Welcome to the Course Creators HQ podcast, helping you navigate the latest techniques for creating and marketing online courses. And now, here is your host, Julie Hood.
So did you watch the Super Bowl? And no worries if you didn't, I've got you covered because today we are going to learn 14 different lessons on selling, all from the Super Bowl commercials. And I don't know about you, but I was shocked to learn that a 30-second ad during the Super Bowl costs $6.5 million. $6.5 million per ad. Wow. So they need to get their messaging right when they are spending that much money on their commercials. And I first got into these actually way back in the 90s. I was working at Anheuser-Busch, and it was different back then because the commercials didn't get launched ahead of time like they do now on YouTube and all the social media. It was always a big deal to watch the Super Bowl commercials because it was the first time that you could see them. And when I was working at Anheuser-Busch, at that point, they had an incredible marketing team, and we got to actually preview the commercials a couple days ahead of time. And so this was back when they had the really amazing ads with the Clydesdales and the frogs. And so some of you who are older like me will maybe remember those because I don't think their commercials these days are quite as good as they used to be. But ever since then, it's always fascinated me to watch the commercials and see how the businesses are trying to sell their products and get your attention. So I also put a link in the show notes so you can re-watch some of these commercials if you're interested. They did have to take out of the trailers for the movies and the streaming services in order to put this link on YouTube. But it has most of the commercials, so if you're really interested, you can go back and watch a lot of them. Just go to coursecreatorshq.com/82. That's /82. I always use the episode number after coursecreatorshq.com so you can get to the lessons. Because the other thing that you might be interested in is if you're listening to this and then you want to come back later and have a list of the 14 different lessons, I summarize them all in the show notes for you. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so let's pull out some of these ideas that you can use for a whole lot less than $6.5 million. So first off, there were so many movie trailers and TV show previews, from the Metaverse movie to the new Jurassic movie to a Lost City movie, and Jordan Peele has a new movie, and there was an ambulance movie. And I gotta say, I lost count of the number of times they announced that Law and Order is coming back. So how can you use this tactic? I want you to tease in your email and your social media. Tease your audience by previewing what you've got coming up in the next few months. Build some anticipation. Mention it over and over like Law and Order did. So tease and build anticipation about what you've got coming down the pike for your audience. And then the second commercial I wanted to talk about was the McDonald's commercial. And this was when everyone was coming up to order and they would say, "Can I get and a big long pause where they're trying to figure out what they want. And this one I thought was brilliant because they knew their audience. Like so many of us do that. We look at the menu and we're like, "Can I get So that was really good, I thought. And also, so many of the commercials were using hit music from the 80s. So some of you younger folks might not recognize those as much. But what I liked about this, it was BMW, the Peacock Channel, Doritos, Pringles, and a bunch more that were very, very focused on knowing their audience. Like they knew which age group that they were trying to target and how some of the music would resonate with them. And then another company who did this well, this like know your audience concept, was Gillette. They had a new razor for men, and they know that one of the big headaches for men is all the time it takes to shave. So their commercial focused on how quick and easy that their new razor was. So once again, really, really knowing your audience, knowing their problems, and speaking to the big problems that they have. That know your audience is probably one of the biggest things that you can pull from these commercials. Okay, so the next lesson, one of the commercials started out with two brothers exercising together over and over. And I was like, wonder what this is about. And then one of them got a really devastating diagnosis about he was going to lose his eyesight. And then it turns out that they were Paralympic athletes. And Toyota tied it into their slogan and their brand about start your impossible. So the lesson for you here is about telling stories, because at the beginning of the commercial, I didn't know what it was about. And so telling this story really pulled me in to like figure out who is this? What is this? What is this about? So do the same sort of thing. So Michelob Ultra also tried to do this with a story around the bowling alley and a bunch of celebrities. And I gotta be honest, I missed the story on this one, unless maybe it was just that they could have a lot of shots of celebrities drinking their beer. So maybe that was the point. I don't know. I missed that whole storyline there. And then finally, one of my favorite stories had to be the Robo-Dog towards the end of the Super Bowl, where he was chasing the electric car. And this one got my attention first with the 80s music, and then they just kept me glued because I was like, what are they advertising here with this Robo-Dog? So stories can be a fantastic way to get the attention of your audience and keep them glued to figure out what your story is going to be. Next, I thought there are several commercials for T-Mobile with Dolly Parton and Miley Cyrus. And what I liked about those was not only that they had this kind of ongoing story that evolved with the repetitiveness of the commercials, but the fact that they kept repeating the same celebrities, keeping the story going. So yes, when you are marketing, you have to repeat your messaging over and over and over again. It seems to be getting to the point where people have to see what you're saying multiple times to get them to actually step up and pay to work with you. So repeat your messages. I also thought Expedia had a double lesson for us. They did a really nice job of focusing on emotions. And their commercial was all about how we won't regret at the end of our lives the things that we didn't buy, but we will regret the places we don't go. So since they're a travel website, perfect messaging on the emotions around traveling. And notice they also talked about the benefits of traveling as opposed to just talking about the features of how their website worked. So when you are doing your sales messaging, a couple different things here. One, use the emotions of your audience. And then two, talk about the benefits of your course. What is the student going to have at the end of completing your course? Don't necessarily talk about the features. And by that, I mean, how long is your course? How many sessions do they get? How many modules are there? How many lessons? Those are features, and you do probably want to include some of those features because there are some left brain students who will want to know that information. But the actual conversion part, the part that gets people to actually step up and sign up, that's when you're talking about the benefits of the course, the benefits of completing it and getting to that result. So use emotions and talk about benefits. The next one, I thought the Carvana commercial that featured the woman telling everyone she knew about how easy it was to use Carvana was really smart. And your lesson on that is to remember that one person can actually be your best marketing arm. Like if they have an amazing experience, they're going to tell everyone they know about it. So the opposite of that is true too. If they have a terrible experience, they might also be one of your worst critics. So trying to remember that you want to make sure your students are having such an amazing experience that they want to tell everyone about it. Next up, one of the big trends I really noticed this year was the really quick flashing of images. So Netflix did this where they were flashing all of some of the recent shows that they have. NBC News did this, and several others of the commercials. And it was almost so fast, for me, it was almost too much. But I think, especially for the younger folks, that kind of quick messaging resonates more with them. So it just reminded me of how quickly we have to grab our potential students' attention. We got to be quick about it and get them into what we are doing, what we're providing for them. And the opposite of that is probably true too. If you've got an older audience, you might have to drag it out just a little bit longer. So did you notice how many commercials were for NBC or its partners? There was commercials for Telemundo. There was a new Bel Air show. There were commercials for the Olympics, for Peacock with the Marry Me movie. I mean, it just went on, and I know I didn't even catch them all. So this reminded me that we really, really need to use our partners to help promote us. You know, NBC was talking about all of their different channels, not just the one we were on. They were promoting everything that they had. So make sure that you are finding compatible partners who can also promote you to their audience and help out their audience by promoting you. And then next up, I thought, and I've noticed this a lot, and I wonder if you have too, TurboTax and the tax software companies, they almost always promote during the Super Bowl. And the reason is because it's excellent timing. People are just getting started on thinking, oh yeah, I got to deal with my taxes. So this is the perfect time of year for them to be promoting out to their audience. So similar thing for you. Pay attention to the timing of your promotions and your launches to see when there is a good time to be sharing the information that you're talking about. And I'll just give you a quick example on this one. You know, if you have a course on losing weight, then people, as they're heading into the summer, so, you know, April, May, June, that's when they're going to be really, really interested in making sure they're ready for summer clothing by losing weight. So just a simple thing, your timing can make a huge difference in your launches. And it's, you know, if you have a launch that doesn't go well, it could just be the timing. You might have all of your messaging perfect, but if it's not the right timing for your audience, you won't get the sales that you expected. And then at the very beginning, the Metaverse movie, when they gave the information, you know, they started talking about the movie. At the end, I thought they had a really cool call to action because they said, go watch the full trailer and gave the link. So same sort of thing with what you were doing, especially on social media, and having those calls to action where you're telling people, go do this, go do that, go here to find out more. Here's the link to get to know more. All of those calls to action are really essential to getting people to come check you out, come sign up. Okay. And then the Uber Eats commercial was, I thought, kind of ridiculous, but actually hilarious enough to get your attention because they showed people, you know, you hear Uber Eats and you think that they are just doing food deliveries, but actually they will deliver a lot of other things. And it showed a lot of people eating things that they shouldn't, like cat litter. And the lesson for you here is all through this commercial, if you notice at the bottom of the screen, they had really big disclaimers about the, you know, don't do this at home. These are professionals, and I can't even remember what the other wording was, but it was throughout a big chunk of the commercials. So make sure that you have all of the disclaimers on your site and the messaging that you want to make sure that you are sharing. And then I thought the Google Pixel 6 commercial actually was pretty brilliant. And here's why. They focused on a very specific problem, how many photos don't accurately represent darker skin tones. And so first they kind of agitated the problem with some really terrible photos. And then they shared some beautiful photos with their solution, which is their real tone photos from their phone. So your lesson from this is to agitate that problem and then provide your solution. And so somebody else who did this really well, qhealth.com, recognized the problem that a lot of people can't get a hold of a test for COVID. And so they shared their solution, which was a home testing tool. And so present your problems and your solutions and do it in that order, because then you get people going, yeah, that is a big problem. How do I solve it? And then you're the solution for them. So next up is to follow the trends. And did you notice how many crypto commercials there were all the way through? I kind of gave up on keeping track of how they were different, but I know there were at least 4 or 5 different crypto commercials, and that's a huge trend right now. So they were really trying to grab people because that's something a lot of people are checking into and something new. So following the trends. And then finally, I will end with this one. This is our lesson number 14, which is to create intrigue with your messaging. So did you see the QR code? It was pretty early in the Super Bowl. It was this QR code that was floating around the screen for the entire commercial. And what they wanted you to do was scan the QR code and then go visit their website. But you sort of had to chase it around the screen. And it was for Coinbase, which is a crypto exchange platform. So I asked my advertising copywriter son, David, I said, which commercial did he think was the best out of all of them? And his vote was actually for this commercial with the QR code for a couple different reasons. First, because it was so unique. They had a really strong call to action, and they encouraged inquisitiveness by the audience. So you can imagine all of these people sitting around with their friends watching the Super Bowl going, what is that? What is that advertising? And talking about it then. So maybe next year I can get him on the show to talk to us a little bit more about how the advertising agencies use these commercials to get a hold of us and get our attention. But I hope you enjoyed my quick little summary of the Super Bowl commercials. And if you missed any of these lessons, or maybe you're listening in the car or you're out exercising, be sure to come back to the show notes. I try to do my show notes a little bit differently for you. They're actually a summary of what the calls are about. So I've got all 14 lessons listed, so you can just go back there if you want to print them off or revisit them. And it's at coursecreatorshq.com/82. Since this is episode 82, can you believe it? I'm in shock that we've had this many episodes. So if you could do me one last humongous favor, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it somewhere, either on social media, maybe in a Facebook group, anywhere you think that there are entrepreneurs or business owners who would be interested in knowing about how to use the Super Bowl commercials to sell their products and services. So thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you giving me space in your earbuds every week, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Be sure that you come back next week for episode 83. It's going to be fantastic. I've recorded it already. I've got a very special guest, and we're talking about one of the things I did in 2021 that got my best ROI, my best return on my investment, and how I used it. And she's teaching you over the next few weeks how you can use it too. So come back next week for episode 83, where we're going to talk all about that new strategy. And thanks again for listening. Hey, I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Have a fantastic week and take care, everybody. I will talk to you soon.